In 2017, North Korean missiles soared over Japan. Cities were on alert, and destroyers were at sea. Officially, Japan built a shield, 8 Aegis warships, and a layered defense network, all intended for protection. But beneath the surface, a quiet shift is underway. The question now is not just how well this shield works, but whether defense alone can ever be enough, especially as threats evolve. Here is how Japan's missile shield really functions, and why its hidden limits matter more than you might think. Japan's missile shield is built on a network of advanced hardware. 8 Aegis-equipped destroyers form the backbone at sea. Each carries the ANSPI-1 radar and a mix of SM-3 and SM-6 interceptors. These ships are split among 3 classes: Kongo, Atago, and Maya, all upgraded over the years to handle evolving threats. The Maya class, the newest, features enhanced radar and software, allowing it to track more targets and fire the latest SM-3 Block 2A missiles. But the system is more than just ships and missiles. On land, ground-based Patriot PAC-3 batteries stand ready to intercept anything that slips through, while long-range radars and the JADGE command network tie every sensor and shooter together. JADGE fuses data from satellites, Aegis destroyers, and ground stations, creating a real-time picture of the airspace and sending target information directly to the units best positioned to respond. The figure of 8 ships, often cited in official documents, tells only part of the story. Maintenance, training, and crew rest mean that on any given day, usually 2 to 4 Aegis destroyers are on patrol and ready for action. The rest are cycling through repairs or preparing for their next deployment. As one retired MSDF commander put it, 8 ships on paper does not mean 8 ships at sea. This rotation ensures that Japan can surge coverage during a crisis, but it makes continuous nationwide protection impossible. Instead, the shield flexes, concentrating ships in the Sea of Japan when North Korean launches are likely, then scaling back as tensions ease. The entire system depends on rapid communication and data fusion, blending sea, air, and land assets into a single layered defense. This physical network is the platform for every step that follows, from detection to interception. A North Korean missile launch sets off a race against the clock. The first alert may come from United States satellites picking up the heat of the missile's engines. Within seconds, ground-based radars across Japan and Aegis destroyers at sea begin tracking the object, feeding raw data into the JADGE command network. This network fuses every available sensor input, satellite, ship, and ground station into a single shared picture of the threat. Operators must classify the missile's trajectory. Is it headed for open ocean, or will it cross Japanese airspace? If the track poses a risk, the clock is already running. The missile's boost phase lasts only a minute or two before it arcs into space. During this window, tracking data is refined and firing solutions are calculated. The engagement sequence is tightly choreographed. JADGE assigns the best-positioned Aegis destroyer to intercept, avoiding overlap or wasted shots. The Aegis ship's crew receives a launch order, often with just minutes to act. Standard Missile 3 interceptors are fired during the missile's midcourse flight, aiming to destroy the target in space, far from Japanese territory. If that fails, or if a warhead slips through, PAC-3 batteries on land prepare for a last-ditch intercept in the final seconds before impact. The goal at each step is a successful intercept. Each phase, detection, tracking, decision, launch, assessment, unfolds under relentless time pressure. The entire process, from first warning to intercept, can be compressed into less than 10 minutes. As Japan prepares to introduce new Aegis system-equipped vessels by the late 2020s, the hope is to add more shooters to this sequence. The fundamental challenge remains: every second counts. A single North Korean missile launch can be tracked and engaged within minutes, but the challenge multiplies when salvos are fired in quick succession. In recent years, North Korea has demonstrated the ability to launch multiple ballistic missiles nearly simultaneously, sometimes from different locations or directions. This approach, known as a saturation attack, is designed to overwhelm the capacity of both sensors and interceptors. Each Aegis destroyer carries a finite number of SM-3 missiles, and every PAC-3 launcher on land is preloaded before any engagement begins. Reloading these interceptors is not possible in the heat of battle. Once a cell is empty, it stays empty until the ship or launcher returns to base. The mathematics of interception quickly become unforgiving. To achieve a high probability of destroying a single warhead, planners often assign 2 or 3 interceptors per incoming missile. Against a handful of threats, this doctrine is manageable. But when dozens or even hundreds of missiles are launched together, the available stock of interceptors can be depleted in minutes. The situation becomes even more complex when decoys are introduced. Some North Korean missiles are believed to carry lightweight balloon decoys or chaff, creating clouds of radar contacts that look nearly identical to real warheads. Without perfect discrimination, defenders may be forced to fire interceptors at false targets, accelerating magazine exhaustion. Emerging threats like maneuvering re-entry vehicles and hypersonic glide vehicles compress the timeline even further. These weapons can change course mid-flight or fly at lower altitudes, reducing the time available for detection and engagement. The result is a system under constant pressure, not just from the sheer number of incoming objects, but from the need to make life or death decisions in seconds, often with incomplete information. Every missile interceptor on board an Aegis destroyer or inside a Patriot battery is a finite resource. Once a vertical launch cell is empty, it stays empty until the ship returns to port, a process that can take hours or even days depending on location and sea conditions. There is no practical way to reload SM-3 interceptors at sea. On land, PAC-3 reloads require crews to halt operations, bring in heavy trucks, and use cranes to swap out empty canisters. In the middle of a missile crisis, this means any spent launcher is out of action for critical minutes or longer. The physical environment adds another layer of constraint. The Sea of Japan is notorious for its harsh winter weather, with frequent storms and wave heights that can reach several meters. While Aegis radars are engineered to operate in rough seas, heavy ship motion and sea clutter can degrade tracking quality, especially near the horizon. Operators must contend with rolling decks, shifting sensor returns, and the constant challenge of keeping a stable lock on fast-moving targets. Ballistic missiles soar high above the weather, but the ships and crews tasked with intercepting them cannot escape the reality of pitching hulls and limited maneuvering room. These logistical and environmental limits are not theoretical. They shape every operational plan and force commanders to make hard choices about where to position ships, how many interceptors to carry, and when to risk running low. When the threat is persistent and the weather turns against them, even the most advanced missile shield reveals its practical boundaries. Japan's approach to missile defense has long been shaped by legal boundaries set in the aftermath of World War II. For decades, the self-defense forces operated under strict rules that allowed action only in the face of a direct attack. That changed in September 2015, when the Diet passed a sweeping package of security legislation. The new laws revised the Self-Defense Forces Law and the Armed Attack Situations Response Law, expanding the definition of self-defense to include limited collective self-defense and support for allies under threat. The key language authorized the JSDF to respond not just to attacks on Japan itself, but also to situations where an attack on a close partner could threaten Japan's survival. This opened the door, for the first time, to counterattacks on enemy missile bases if a strike appeared imminent. Legal scholars point to this as a quiet but historic evolution, one that allowed Japan to consider counterstrike capabilities without formally abandoning its constitutional commitment to a defensive posture. The 2015 laws created the legal space for new military procurement and doctrine, setting up the next phase of Japan's missile defense strategy. Japan's 2022 national security strategy broke new ground by explicitly endorsing counterstrike capabilities. For the first time, official doctrine called for the ability to hit enemy missile bases and command centers if an attack appeared imminent. This policy shift was backed by real funding. The fiscal year 2023 defense budget allocated billions of yen to acquire long-range standoff weapons, including Tomahawk cruise missiles from the United States and an upgraded, extended-range version of the domestically produced Type 12 missile. Procurement plans also include advanced intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance assets to identify and track mobile launchers deep inside enemy territory. These investments are not abstract. They represent a concrete response to the realities of modern missile warfare, where interceptors alone may not be enough to blunt a large-scale salvo. The Ministry of Defense now describes counterstrike as a core element of deterrence, integrated into Japan's layered missile defense. In practice, this means Aegis destroyers and air units will be equipped not just to intercept, but to launch precision strikes if ordered, fundamentally changing the shape of Japan's missile shield. That shift forces a central question about intent. Is Japan building a shield, a sword, or something in between? Today, Japan stands at a crossroads. Its shield is evolving into a potential sword. As regional missile arsenals grow and doctrines shift, the line between defense and deterrence blurs. In Northeast Asia's uneasy balance, technology alone will not decide security. Choices about how those systems are used will. The future hinges on restraint as much as readiness.